All right, welcome. And if anybody can hear me, of course, let me know in the chat. If we're here, where are we? This is the PS I Love Me show, sponsored by LMC Radio, where loyalty means everything, and Omega Enterprises. We're here at the Omega Enterprises studio, and of course, the host is me, Omega, aka a lot of other things. But today we got a special program. If you guys are following what's going on, I would like to encourage you to get into the chat and start telling me a couple of things here. I tell you, without a doubt, it has been already an incredible year. People have been getting sick. People that have been vaccinated are questioning whether the vaccination was even worth it. Maybe it's time for us to start looking at the greater good. Maybe it's time for us to start looking at things from a different perspective. That's why we're here, so that those that are having problems with loving thyself can look at themselves from a different perspective and not the perspective of what everyone else is looking at us by. Because if we keep listening to everyone else, then we're going to be exactly what they say we are, regardless if it's a fight within ourselves not to be that person. So without further ado, I want to start by wishing everyone that's out there that's sick, know someone that's sick. We have people in our staff, some people in the organization that have been sick, including, the Queen, CEO, hopefully feeling better. Much respect to everyone who else is going through a situation like this. If you don't feel safe, make the right decision. Today we will be talking about decisions. That's going to be a piece and a segment of what we're doing. If anyone is out there, all they have to do is just say something. Let me know if you agree or disagree. This is where we do things here. Regardless of when you come in, we'll start the segment over, or at least catch you up if that's the case. So again, without further ado, let's start talking about decisions and the choices that we make and what choices we really do. Because sometimes we make decisions that are actually not our decision to make. And sometimes we feel that we have options and choices that we really don't. And we need to be conscious and subconscious about both of these things. These are two different things. One is an abstract way of thinking, and another one is a little bit more literal. So one is in the now, and one is everything included. We're not going to get deep into that. But what I will start is by saying that some battles were not meant to happen. Some battles, you have to pick and choose your battles. You have to make sure that what you're saying is worth the repercussions that come from it. It's very difficult to say things at the right time, at the right climate, and the right volume and the right tone. It's almost like you have to reinvent the wheel, especially a person like me. I had a very difficult time changing back from anger to calm or reserved or conservative. And now it's become second nature for me not to get to the extreme, because now, because of my education, because of my experiences, because of my willingness to learn how the moving parts of life work, it comes to me a little bit more natural because I practice this on a daily basis. I also preach this. I also try to share this with the audience and with a lot of people, whoever's willing to listen. So you have to start this year out as strong as possible. I would suggest that you write a lot of things down, of things that you want to accomplish for this year that's coming. What do you want to accomplish? Like, tell me that you have some type of accomplishments this year, because otherwise you're looking at the same thing year in and year out. You're looking at a lot of the same thing, which is, to be quite honest, it's a whole lot of nothing, because we need to grow regardless. Now, I cannot tell you how much you need to grow. That is up to you, depending on how much you want to grow. And of course, I have my standards and you have yours, and we have the common standard, which it's always in debate, because I don't talk about common. I talk about elevating. I talk about empowerment and growth, which is living above the normal. The normal right now hasn't changed in quite some time. The social media aspect of it has definitely impacted and changed. It's forever changed the way things are done, the way information is processed, the way information comes, the speed of light. Pew! It goes out there in a heartbeat. Good information and bad information just as well. The subconscious is in the now, and the conscious mind is an abstract. What does that mean? We don't have to go into detail of what those two means. And as long as you're utilizing both, can you utilize both? Is one more controlled than the other? Is the other one a composite of a whole bunch of things coming together? I believe that you do have influence in both. You can go to the banks, both banks of your subconscious and your conscious mind. You can do it, and you can live in the now based on the future, what you want to see, and based on what you have done already. Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you again, love. Familia in the house. I see you. Always a pleasure to have you on board. I know you're listening, even though sometimes you don't say anything. But yeah, today we're talking about, decisions and options, and we're talking about how we misinterpret or misguide ourselves, kind of like creating a lot of illusions. And too many illusions are like misdemeanors in a court, where too many misdemeanors, a lot of misdemeanors become felonies. Small level lies become capital lies. Small crimes turn into bigger crimes, and so on and so on and so on. And then there's different levels of felonious activity, which a felony is 1 year in jail minimum, and then a misdemeanor is up to a year in jail. I'm only saying that to give you an analogy and a comparison, so that you can see how this works. Sometimes we make decisions when we don't even have to, and that brings me to one of people that have had laws, like Murphy's Law and Falkland's Law and stuff like that. Falkland's Law says when you don't have to make a decision, don't feel compelled, do not feel pressured, do not feel as though everything needs a decision. Sometimes you just need to let it rock. Sometimes you need to let it roll. You know what I'm saying? You need to let it go. Let it be whatever it is going to turn into, especially if you're keeping an eye on things, because that's what growth and development is when you create a maintenance program for your growth. It's not just plant a seed and then let it grow, and then you have to kind of change the pot when it gets bigger. You have to, if you want, you can add some vitamins, you can give it better water, you can give it more sunlight. You have to put that seed in sunlight. So there are things that in the inception, the beginning of planting a seed and becoming, okay, let's say a tree or a big bush or whatever the case may be, or even a flower or a bush of flowers. In order for that to get to that level, it needs assistance in the beginning. And that's weird, because on Earth, before man, supposedly there was already flowers and there was already agriculture. Excuse me. So think about that. How did it get there? How would they know? So another thing I wanted to talk about was Walson's Law. Now Walson says if you put information and intelligence first, then the money will keep going. So think about what that's saying. Is that if the information that's processed goes into intelligence before anything else, in other words, use that information in an intelligent way, process that information in an intelligent way, utilize the components of that information so that when you're transferring raw data, because it comes to you as raw data, and then it gets processed into information, believe me, it happens fast. And if you do things too fast, then you miss some elements, some key components and essentials that come with those lessons. So don't sell yourself short. Now remember, these things that I'm sharing with you, they may not be exactly the way they said it, but it's the way that I'm interpreting these things. In such cases, maybe I'm a little bit more, have preference towards things and like to use things in a positive way. I've had a lot of arguments throughout the years and debates about how you can utilize something negative and turn it into positive. Anything. There's nothing negative you can't turn into positive, and I'm a firm believer of that. Okay, so Gilbert's Law. Gilbert's Law talks about the biggest problem at work is that nobody tells you what to do. That's what Gilbert says. Nobody. That's one of the biggest problems at work is that nobody tells you what to do. Like you're there, like, okay, do your job. What job? What do you want me to do? The same thing all over again. There's no changes. There's no growth. There's no how do we call that, cross-functional abilities that I want to learn, so somehow we can take care of other areas, you know. Hey chap, how you doing? I see you coming in, man. Good evening. Nice of you to join us. Hey, share the live so that people know what's going on. Share them on social media. This audience is going to start growing soon. Facebook is starting to really kick off. I see a lot of blessed things coming right now. And everyone on the Twitch right now for LMC on the other side. And yeah, we're doing multiple streaming. We're talking about decision making, that sometimes we make decisions that we don't have to. And sometimes because we're forced and we feel like we have to make a decision. We don't. Decisions are only to be made when there is a need for a decision. So obviously you have to be aware of when to make a decision. You don't always have to make a decision. And we feel forced and, pushed back sometimes and say, I got to do something. No, you don't have to do anything. A lot of times you don't have to do things. There's a decent amount of moments that happen in your life that you make a decision that you don't have to. Stepping into something you don't have to. Saying something extra that's not necessary. That is doing too much. We talked about growth as a whole, doing too much or not doing enough. We talked about that. So when you make a decision that's not necessary, or that it doesn't call for a decision, and you decide to go and get involved and do something because you feel that that's the need, that's a mistake. And you did too much. Learn from that mistake so that you know not to just turn off the energy, turn off the motivation, but to control it. New Year is looking good. New Year's looking fantastic. This is the best year I've ever had in my life. 2022 has been the greatest year ever. People would say, yeah, because they just started. No, we're taking this mentality with us in 2022, and I'm going to protect that mentality instead of feeling like I have to earn something or reach a certain status. I'd rather just be that status and then work on maintaining it instead of always reaching a goal when it comes to our feelings or processing our own vision. That's not the way it works. I am here and I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. So that being said, I'm ready to do the things that I'm doing right now. I believe that I was born to do these things, and I'm going to do these things to the best of my ability, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to be able to practice these things and put all these formulas and all these visions into an expressive, way of going into things. But anyway, let's not get lost in the content. Let's go right back to again, Gilbert's law. The biggest problem at work is that nobody tells you what to do, but there's also a lot of expectations. So Kitlin's law says if you can write the problem down clearly, then the matter is halfway solved. In other words, if you can actually take a pen and paper and write down what the problem is, you're more than halfway there. Think about that. So assuming that you're gonna be clear about what you're writing, you have to really understand and get to the root of the matter of what is the problem. Like what's the problem? What is it affecting? If you can do that, then you're already halfway there. Think about that. But if you don't do that, then nothing's happening. Now you're not making any decisions at all. Now you're not being progressive. Now you're not being proactive. You understand what I'm saying? And you have to honestly be aggressive in that area. We make decisions to be aggressive because we're allowing ourselves to react instead of being proactive. We're reacting, and reaction is controlled by emotion usually, because reaction is something that happens fast. A reaction is fast because it's a bounce mechanism. You say something, I say something, you do this, that results on that. It's a fast result. But if you just take a few seconds before you answer or react, it's called prudence. You'll be showing prudence, which is the strength to think before you say it. You may not have to say that. And that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you right now. When you're doing too much, I'm guilty of it too. I say some extra things. It's like that extra when I'm having a conversation with certain people. You want to have that extra thing, and and you minimize that to a limit where it's not hurtful or non-competitive. You know, it's like that extra oomph. I am also guilty of that. You have to be careful with those extra words at the end, because it doesn't let the fire die. It leaves the fire burning, and sometimes you gotta let it go and then move on to the next thing, because it just lingers way too long. So if I could share my screen with you guys right now, I'll go right into this, which is Murphy's Law. Is one of the most common, laws that we speak about. And what does it mean? It says if anything can go wrong, it will. What can go wrong will go wrong. So, let's talk about that, because if you look at it in a different way, you could also say that the more you fear something, the more it will happen. You're kind of manifesting things to happen, but you're bringing it with an attitude of fear instead of an attitude of preparation. Let's bring that back a little bit. The more you fear something, the more chances that it will happen. Why? Because when people fear something, they think about it a lot. You're putting that energy out there, but it's coming into like a surprise party. But the person you're trying to surprise already knows what's going on, because you talked about it so much that it's not the same thing. It's not genuine. So if you could at least engage in understanding that there are things in life that are going to come to you regardless of what you say or do, and you stop acting like you're surprised when things that you know are going to happen, you're like, oh, well, what am I going to do now? I don't know. Did you think about that before? I didn't want to think about that. Why? Because it's hard to think about. So it's hard to think about things before they happen. You just made it harder to deal with when it actually does happen. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, that was like an epiphany moment. Think about what I'm saying. You can't prepare yourself for everything, but the better you prepare yourself, the more prepared and the more natural it feels when things that you're not prepared for happen, because you have to leave some type of room in your life for the unexpected. So what do? You work on the things that you know. Stop neglecting the things that we have information about. I hate to be so raw, but it's the only way I can be. People are going to die. People are going to get sick. People are going to lose their jobs. People are going to go to jail. People are going to hurt you. You're going to hurt people. People are going to steal. New diseases are going to come out. New ways to make money is going to come out. New ways to commit crime is going to come out. This is an ever-evolving, conflicting society that we live in. We live in a society that they want you to believe that it's forever changing, but it's not. It is total stagnation. It is using procrastination as an excuse. I use it as a tool, but sometimes I like to procrastinate. Sometimes you have to wait for the right moment. That is procrastination. Like, if we look up the word procrastination, let's be clear about that word. Let's talk about it. Procrastination. And what does the word tell us? Look, I'll share the screen with you. It says the action of delaying or postponing something. So wait a minute. So if procrastination is not doing nothing, then how could it be the action in a noun? You see how they confuse us? The action of delaying or postponing something. That's procrastinating, waiting, holding back. And this is a noun, but yet they call it the action. Come on, guys. Let's get it together in the English language. It's just, there's so many flaws in the English language, yet they judge us based on our SAT scores and our indoctrinated education system that teaches us not to be leaders in the future, but teaches to be workers and people that have 9 to 5s and yes sir and yes ma'am type of people. I get it. I understand. I'm not knocking people that work. But if you're going to have a 9 to 5, learn how to grow so that you're not in the same position, because inflation will leave you behind. Think about this. I'm not saying that anyone is better than anyone else. You need to be better. You need to go with the flow of inflation. Have you been to the grocery store lately? Have you been to the supermarket lately? Have you seen that the coupons are at its lowest? I still have that discount mentality that I want the best for bang for my buck. It gives me a sense of pride to use something that I got from my upbringing. Those that know me know that I grew up in a ghetto, and I grew up in the South Bronx. And some of the survival skills that we learned there are unsurpassed and undeniably working for me in my current life, and will be passed down to whoever feels, that they want to be able to stretch their dollar, because nowadays you have to. This all started a while ago when they would take a 2-liter. They would take a 2-liter juice. And what they would do is, instead of, they'll keep the price where it's at, and you know what I'm saying? Hey, how you doing? We're going live. They would lessen the amount that they would give you. Instead of giving you 2 liters, they would give you, like say it's supposed to be like 62 or 64 ounces or whatever the case may be, half a gallon. They would put 58, and they would do it slowly, 62 and a half, 62.3, and then they trick you by changing the bottle size. They make it fitter. They're cutting costs by using less plastic, less packaging, but they're also putting less amount. And they're cheating you, because even if it says 58.6, look at your packaging, 58.7. It's not 58.7. They know you're not going to weigh it. And then they could also chalk it up if they even get investigated and somebody actually puts it on a scale. Then they have to launch an investigation. And what they're doing is, they're not doing it in consecutive places. They're sending shorts. And hey, these are all tactics. They're illegal, but people get away with these type of tactics. This is how they trick everybody, by giving you less. Like, okay, so now you get used to the less. You understand what I'm saying? But then they expect you to pay more now. When a company makes changes and they do packaging or a new, they trick you in the package. It says, hey, look at this new packaging, to take you away from how much it really weighs or how much it occupies, because a liquid measure is a measurement of occupying, right? It's a volume. It's volume. It does have weight, but I believe it's volume. When you put something in like a quart, or whatever the case may be, there is a science to this. It has to be volume, because every liquid weighs different. Water weighs a lot less than chocolate milk. You understand? Or milk, I think, weighs more than water. I'm guessing. This is this is my experience will tell me that milk weighs more than water, because even if you have 2% milk, that's just diluted with water. So 2% milk obviously weighs less than whole milk. That's a good comparison. I like that. So what we talked about already, write a list of things that you want to accomplish, but put it in the now. Use the subconscious and the conscious mind to illustrate a unison between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind. Is that even possible? No, you can't do that. Says who? I'm doing it now. I am suppressing things that I don't need to utilize right now, but I can touch those piano keys in my head and bring it back. I have a library and a wealth of information that I can encyclopedia kind of look into and pull out, like in law, a case study of something that happened in the past. Hey, in the past, in 2010, Anthony did this, and this is what happened, and as a result of that, everybody did this. So guess what? I could go into that file and say, hey, no. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do things differently. We're not actually going to get into that at all. There are decisions that you have to make where you have to eliminate it completely. There are decisions that you have to make that you have to tweak something. Excuse me. That you have to alter something. You have to make an adjustment. And then there's decisions that everything is okay, but you have to make a decision anyway. So you're making a decision that's unnecessary. So it's like that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Edwin, how you doing? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you, man. So much support today. I'm excited because next week I'm going to actually be going live on Facebook and Instagram at the same time with all these other social media platforms. So I'm excited that LMC had a 1-year anniversary and they had some good talent. If you're looking at all the stars and the video people that are doing the promotions, that's awesome. So we talked about all the different laws. Excuse me. So I talk about living the now with the future in mind, so that if you manifest it now, they could only take it away from you. if you put yourself in the position to obtain something, then the process becomes, it could be boring. It's the truth. And we are driven sometimes by excitement, passion, and looking for ways to stay motivated, And motivation actually comes from education, comes from confidence of knowing things. That's where motivation comes from. Because the more you learn, the more you want to learn, the more you want to understand. And once you get that hang of understanding something, it's like when you read a book, you can't put it down, you can't put a good book down. It depends on what that book is teaching you. Because if you're reading a non-fiction book, then those are the things that are going to drive you. But if you're reading a book that's fiction and that drives you, prepare to deal with having to separate the illusion of something versus the reality of it. And let's not forget that realistic is not real. Real is genuine. Real is objective. Real is 100%. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So let's keep that in mind. Let's go back to the original concept that we talked about, which was decision making. You have choices in this world. And sometimes you think you have choices that you don't. You invent a choice. And when you're inventing something, you're not thinking logically. You're looking for a way out. You could even distract yourself and try to sneak in the back door of your own subconscious thoughts. Bing! Think about this. You're running away from your subconscious with your conscious, and then you're running away from the conscious with your subconscious. So this is why you're always in a disarray. Make them work together like twins. You know the sign of the DNA, Make them work together. And if you make them work together, your subconscious and your conscious mind, then you're ahead of the game, because now you can anticipate anything. The choices that we make should never include emotions. You can't make decisions, or you can't even try to figure out your options or your choices when you're in your feelings. Your feelings do not belong in important decisions. Decision is not just saying, this is it, I'm doing this and that's it. That's not a decision. A decision takes planning. A decision takes realistic thinking. Ground yourself. Because if you make a decision too quickly, then you're reacting. You're not being proactive. You're not taking the time to see if you even have to make a decision. But you have to be able to distinguish when you leave things alone, or when you're going full force, or it doesn't require for you to utilize that much force, that much drive. Tame yourself. That's what emotional intelligence is recognizing when an emotion is trying to sneak in to a decision that you must develop, strategize, making smart goals. Let's put this in the best perspective possible. Stop allowing yourself to be distracted. You don't even need other people. You distract yourself so much, and the narcissism comes out to blame other people when it's yourself that's distracting yourself. You're having a fight with your subconscious mind. Basically. Why? Because you're so stubborn that you have to argue with yourself. But could it be? No, it can't be. We already had that discussion. Let's move forward. You ever had that discussion with yourself? People say that when you talk to yourself, that's an intelligent thing to do. Other people say, hey, dude, that dude is crazy. He's talking to himself. That's the society that we live in. You can't win because you're going to be judged no matter what you do. So if you let the judgment stay where it's at in the mouths of other people and not in your ears, then you're halfway there. Influence makes the choices more difficult. The more influences you have that do not pertain to the situation at hand, the more of a complexity that it becomes. A lot of unnecessary things go into simple decisions. They become complicated. Especially if you're dealing with somebody else. I'll give you an example. When I used to do mystery shopping and I used to go to the car dealerships and I used to act like I was a customer, the first thing that they need to ask you is, are you the decision maker? Do you have to call your wife, or do you have to call your significant other before you make a decision like that? Because that's what happens. Many times a car salesman spends all the time with you, does the test drive, the assessment, the getting to know you, the wants and needs parts of this is all planned. This is all training that goes in there. Don't think that they're your friend because they talk to everybody like this. They won't even remember your name unless you buy 2 or 3 cars from these people. But regardless to the fact, it's just like that. You understand what I'm saying? You have to make comparisons where they need. Sometimes you don't need to make comparisons. And if you can't help yourself and you're the type that you're an overthinker, then at least understand that you're an overthinker and act accordingly. Have that in your head. You have the advantage already. You got to stop making believe that you're not an overthinker. Oh, I got to stop overthinking. No, you don't need to stop overthinking because you may never stop overthinking. You need to start smart thinking when you're overthinking, because if you're overthinking, you're at an accelerated pace. So if you're at an accelerated pace but your thinking is progressive, not stuck in the same spot, then you're moving places and faster than everyone else. See, there's a positive twist. No, you're encouraging people to overthink. No, I'm not encouraging people to overthink. I'm telling people to recognize that their flaws could be gifts if you turn them into something that's progressive. If you are in an accelerated pace in anything you do, use that to your advantage. But understand that not everything is comfortable or works correctly at an accelerated pace. Make the decision to slow down when this is necessary, and you'll see that naturally you'll slow down. How do I know this? Because I used to suffer from overthinking. I used to not sleep and say I have insomnia. No, it's not that. It's that you can't go to sleep until you have a solution. That's what one of the demises to this, to the demise of whoever is an overthinker. They can't go to sleep until they find a solution. But what I just told you before should be another wavelength, another parallel universe. Sometimes you don't have to make decisions. So what does that mean when it comes to overthinkers? Sometimes you don't need an answer. Sometimes you have to learn how to say it is what it is. Because when you say it is what it is, you're accepting something. So there is where it stops. Bam, 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 right on its tracks. It stops right on its tracks. It might be a temporary solution, but it's definitely not a band-aid. It is a progressive way of dealing with this. Either utilize your flaws to your advantage or remove them. Hey, wouldn't that be a nice thing to prove to somebody? And say, hey, you know what? What you thought was my flaw was my advantage and my leverage. What's up? I'm just teasing you. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop giving up on things and stop letting people tell you that the things that you're doing wrong to them or they feel is wrong is a flaw. Because what we do as, I like to think, intelligent and living above the norm, while we're learning how to love ourselves, we're also learning a lot about a lot of other people that they don't recognize about themselves. That gives us the advantage of determining where the person you're having a conversation or a relationship with, or a future relationship or a business entity, you have the advantage because you get to determine at what level they are in self-preservation, self-education. There's a lot of phenomenal people out there that they would love to have a conversation, but they don't have a conversation with people because the people are not in their level. The things that they talk about are different. They talk about substantial power. They talk about inner lining. They talk about a connection with things that people laugh at. You be like, oh, that's funny. There's no such thing. You don't believe in energy. You don't believe in locomotion. You don't believe in strength, power, gravity. I mean, this is all scientific stuff. You don't believe in force. You believe in air, the stratosphere, the hemisphere. I mean, that's basic stuff. This is what the common person is supposed to know. I ask people to just take it a step further and utilize what you think are flaws as tools. Procrastination, for some people, would be like, oh man, this guy's a procrastinator. Yes, I am. But I procrastinate a lot smarter than I was before. And I also know that if I miss the gun, I have a backup plan to accelerate and work faster with a sense of urgency to catch up. You understand what I'm saying? To what we're doing. Hey, how you doing, Mickey? Always a pleasure to have you, man. Happy New Year. But yes, think about this. Like people say, you too this, you too that. Maybe that's because you're more of this than they are. Who are they to regulate how much or how less you are to do something? We're not people that like to be told what to do, right? And I'm going to prove this to you, that we're creatures that we don't like people to tell us what to do. They used to say that females can't be told what to do. It's not a female thing. It's a human thing. Humans do not. There are some people that were meant to be led. That's not what I'm saying. There's followers and their leaders. That's not what I'm saying. This is not an absolute statement. But think about what I'm saying. Put yourself in the position, the best position possible, by you don't even listen to yourself. Think about this. How many times you say, I'm going to start this, and you don't do it? How many times you're going to go to the gym, you don't do it? I'm going to start eating well, you're not going to do it. You know damn well that it's good for you. You've been told that eating right and going to the gym or exercising, you don't have to go to the gym, because going to the gym is an event. You can do it at home. And if you should do it at home. I can't do it at home. There's too much going on. Get everybody involved. Lead by example. Stop making excuses. I don't have no peace. Of course not. Peace is not where you at and who you in front of. Peace is inside of you. And when you reach inner peace is when you are intelligent enough, have the intellect of understanding what is important. Total wealth management. Welcome to the club. What is total wealth management? That's going to be my third book. I don't know if I'll be able to do it this year, but for sure I'll be doing one book this year. I'm writing the book, Live Above the Norm. I got a new video coming out in 2 days. It's already done. I'm even hiring someone to do sign language for the next video after that. And I'm going to start progressing and growing. This is going to get very interesting. And like I said, we don't like to be told what to do. We don't even listen to ourselves. We tell ourselves to do something, we don't even do it. We don't even respect our own word. So how in the heck, and I say heck, there's a hidden joke behind that. Some of my old school friends would understand that. But what the heck are you thinking? Think about that. If we don't listen to ourselves, could you imagine how stubborn you are to other people that we don't recognize how stubborn we are? And if you're that type of person that you don't want to learn from other people, and you let biases get in the way of opportunity, if you hold grudges and you are not walking in peace, because grudges is not peace. Oh no, it's not. You could remember things and you could go through that whole forgiveness if you want to, but a grudge is extra. A grudge is like, you know what, I'm going to hold on to this and I'm going to rock this. In certain situations, I will agree that you may have to hold on to something a little bit longer. Especially if it has to do with trust issues where you're trying to balance out consistent behavior from the culprit, whoever it is that is doing the damage. And I know all about this because I've nearly destroyed everything in my whole entire life. And I realized that I was given a certain amount of chances to do something good with what some will consider a gift and other people will consider a curse, because knowledge is not always a gift. If I had that knowledge, I would do this. How do you know that when you don't do it? How dare you speak about what you would do if you had something with what someone else possessed? Do you know that being knowledgeable and knowing things, you get to see things for what they really are? And it's disgusting in many ways, shapes, and forms of what's happening in society right now. How the control and how the capitalistic religion and sociological aspects of this whole thing, how people are controlled and manipulated and indoctrinated, again, words that just keep coming up. That is not a lie. So do we have the choices that we think we have? No, we don't. No, we don't. We get upset when we can't do what we really want to do. And in certain cases, some of those things might be against the law. And some of these things may not be against the law, but they're unethical. These things may tamper with someone's authenticity or their genuineness, There's another word I'm looking for. Feel free to tap in whenever you want. Think about this. It's like your integrity may not matter And we're losing that sense of integrity. People are not talking about what the real problems are. Oh, the youth this, the youth that. This has been ongoing. They didn't like my music. I guess whatever, their parents didn't like their music. There's new music that's out right now that I don't agree with, but there's music that was out back then that I didn't agree with either. I tried to be as open-eared as possible. I grew up, listening to salsa music and merengue and freestyle and hip-hop. Yes, believe it or not, hip-hop is a big staple in my culture. Just like a whole bunch of other things that you would not believe that I could actually listen to. All those mixes that you hear on social media with the DJs that are doing really nice, I did that a long time ago. I was creative back then, but I was too stubborn to realize that I wanted to be so creative and so original that I was losing the opportunity to be a second mover. I didn't think that there was greatness in being a second mover, and I'll explain that. In business, a first mover is the first person that does something. A second mover is the one that sees somebody does something and then they copy it and make it their own. In the open market, you can do that. Not in a that's kind of a monopolistic competition when everybody sells something the same, but they're all different. Like everybody, a writer of a book, movie theaters, restaurants, they're all restaurants, but they're all different. Some of them sell different foods. Some of them have different things on the menu. So that's kind of a monopolistic competition. An open competition is just everybody is just going with what the market does. They're price takers. They take what the market, offers. That's the price. And a monopoly, it's a person who dominates the market. That's just a little bit of business, information so that you can relate these things to your everyday life. What kind of, person or kind of business that you have at home with your family? Do you have a monopolistic family where you run the shots, you run the show, is what you say, and if you don't get what you want, then you get crazy and you start acting nuts? That could be monopolistic. Or maybe it's a monopolistic competition where you and your spouse now have a say in what the price is or the value of what something is in the household. You see how that works? Or it could be an open competition or an open market where everybody in the household gets a say, including the kids, because they didn't ask to be here. So why not listen to their perception? You might learn a thing or two, especially that if you're not paying attention to the inflation, then you're not paying attention to the inflated egos and the inflation of a kid's new world technology mind. Hello. In order to reach children, you have to be hip to what's going on. Go ahead and continue to use old school ways and classic ways to do something. We don't lose the lesson, but you got to be a little bit more creative on how you express yourself when you talk to these children. And that's why I listen to this music with my daughter. That's why me and my daughter have music days. Me and my daughter have movie days. We talk about different conversations. I have conversations with my daughter that I would have with a regular adult. Like, oh, you can't talk to your daughter like that. No, man. I'm preparing my daughter for things that happen every day. I'm not going to be raising someone to be afraid to deal with the everyday issues so that when something actually major happens, they crack. They lose it. No, you have the upper hand with experience. How do you conquer fear? By running to it, not running from it. Fear is not always fear. Fear is not always, anxiety. Fear is not always false expectations. Fear could be being anxious for something positive that's about to happen. You could be confused. Just think about this. You could be misled by goosebumps. There's people that I've spoken to that they have a hard time trying to decipher between goosebumps and anxiety. I said, maybe it's all the same. Maybe you should treat anxiety and maybe you should treat goosebumps and feeling anxious and fear all the same. Like, hey, I embrace it. Bring the complexities. All my life has been difficult. So when something easy comes along, I'm bored. I like to multitask. Why? Because I like to make things harder. That's the way I function. I grew up multitasking. I grew up learning things at the same time. That's why we can't focus on one thing, because we got so many things going on. And you don't, when you're young, your cortex is not developed. Your frontal cortex is not developed. So you're not able to process these things in full. So they give you and flood you with all these things to trap you into feeling like You suck at everything you do. Because they hit you with so much because they know you can't handle it. But if you teach a child or someone young to do this, they at least have the knowledge that they might be capable of handling this. But if you keep putting in their head that they're not ready to have this conversation, we don't want to alarm them, let kids be kids. Well, guess what? There is nothing more fun than being a responsible adult. Wepa! There is nothing more fun, more liberating, more free will. And when you realize that you don't have to be certain about certain things, that in order for you to have peace and enjoy your life, you have to understand that you're entitled to change your mind 100 times if you feel like it. If it's necessary. Don't do it just to do it, just to do too much. You're entitled to change your mind whenever you see fit. And you can go back and forth. And they'll tell you, hey, make a decision. That could be a way of you sitting on the fence. Or that could be a way of you. What you're doing is that you're reacting when you're supposed to be thinking. If you're going back and forth and changing your mind, usually means that you are processing the thought in an action. So you make the decision, you're like, oh, I take that back. You make the other decision, you're like, oh, let's go right back to the other one. That's the back and forth that you're supposed to be doing in your head. So don't knock yourself and don't let nobody knock yourself. You just got to understand what you're doing. And you can't let nobody else tell you what you're doing unless they care about you and they're intelligent enough to understand this. Don't hang out with people that guess and make weird guesses. Don't hang out with people like that. Don't talk to people like that. Don't share things with people because they're only there to make it worse. Some people are, some people are not. But if you do it for yourself and you rely on yourself, would you cheat yourself? You don't let nobody else cheat you. Think about this. You don't let nobody else cheat you. Or sometimes you allow people to get away with things and they think that they got over. But you're holding a grudge or some type of scorn. You're involving yourself with too much. You're in control of you cheating yourself. And every day you find 10 different ways to cheat yourself. And I'm being nice. I'm being nice. There are hundreds ways. There's 100 ways to cheat yourself in a week. If you get up in the morning and you don't know what you're doing, you've been cheating. Why are you cheating? How are you cheating? I'll tell you how you're cheating. Because you're cheating on yourself with somebody else. Because you're worried more about somebody else than you're worried about yourself. Because you're worried about everything else and what comes out of people's lips than what comes out of your own brain. You're more interested in people's advice than your own experiences. Wow! Where are the inner lessons? Where are the slaps in the face? In Spanish, my mother used to tell me, "Cantazo avisa." In other words, the hit will advise you if you're not paying attention and if you're not doing things right. The problem is that sometimes the penalty that we pay for the mistakes that we make are eternal. Sometimes people die because of the mistakes that you make. Hey, let's be honest. Sometimes people get hurt. Sometimes people's mental condition changes. And what I mean by that is their mindset. Mindsets change and usually are stirred by an outside influence. Don't you want to be the person that's in charge? Don't you hate it when people are right and they say something about you? But like, that's not true. I'm not that person, but that's what you've been displaying. So then you might be right. You're not that person. But the only thing that you have displayed to this person or to this situation is the contradictory action. I know this from experience because I could talk about what I wish I did. I could talk about, in my mind, what I could have done. But until you process those thoughts and think about that, you're learning. See what I just did right there? I'm learning from that. Like, I don't want to do that again. I didn't like the result of it. So if you do it again, you expect a different result. You already know the Einstein version of that. That's just insanity in a negative way. We take that word last week, insanity, and we made it a positive word. Okay, So you please your people, your circle. Excuse me. You please your people, your circle, your relationships to get what you want, right? Like, oh, you don't do nothing unless there's something behind it. Wake up, people. Why shouldn't it be that way? That way, at least it could be a little bit balanced, especially if you're not taking notes. If you're the type of person that you want, you want this person to do that, you want this person to do that, do this for me, do that, do this, do that. You know what I'm saying? You don't become self-reliant, man. And you're never going to be happy because you're not in charge of your own satisfaction, because you have to manipulate or you have to involve so many other factors for you to function. No. We will do things for people. And I just recently learned that that's a good thing to do. When you want something from somebody, this is what you do. Listen, I need you to do this, and in return, I'll offer you this. Instead of asking for favors, do what's called a general partnership, but a reciprocating relationship where I say, you know what, I'm going to give you this, but in turn, you're going to give me that. Why? Because what you have, you do well. And what I have, you need too. So I won't fulfill a need of yours if you fulfill a need of mine. Because what happens is you never have to keep count of the favors that are done. You never have to keep score. And people say you shouldn't keep score. No, you have to keep score, okay? Because there are some people that don't keep score at all. And they totally forget the things that you do for them because in the now, things don't seem to be working out. So they're willing to disregard things that you've done in the past that were extremely important then, that they might have even came to you, that they're willing to disregard that if they don't agree with you now. So the way to eliminate that is real simple. Hey, honey, you do me a favor and do that. And while you're doing that, I'll do this. And if you offer something of value that they see as that gives me more time, that gives me more relaxed time, that gives me more this, that gives me an open door to do that, you're helping this person inadvertently. And then the little task that you ask them to do, regardless if you don't want to do it, you're not feeling it, whatever it is, they'll probably do it so gladly and so willingly that it doesn't become a problem. Then you're creating a reciprocated relationship. But you have to come with something and don't cheat. Don't cheat. You know, like, in other words, hey, I'm gonna clean the bathroom sink. Can you clean the rest of the house? Come on, we all know that a bathroom sink takes a minute to clean. Seriously. You know what I'm saying? It takes 30 seconds. Come on, 45 seconds. A minute. Now, what if there's history behind the sink? What if there's something that's been an elongated time span of the same situation of please do the sink, or please don't leave the sink dirty. You know, when people brush their teeth, sometimes they don't realize that they leave these streaks. And to a person that's a clean freak, I'm not a clean freak anymore. I used to be. But I honestly only did that because when my family was large, I wanted everybody to adapt to their own cleanliness. Honestly, that's what it was. Because right now I have tremendously slowed down and I'm not as strong as I was. But when you have a lot of personalities living with you, your character has to be forceful, strong, and aggressive at certain points. And people need to understand that not everything aggressive is negative. Not everything aggressive is detrimental. Sometimes you need aggressiveness. Sometimes you need to suck it up and get it done. At other times, you can't be so forceful. You have to be able to use another technique for different things. Again, when emotions are involved in decisions that you make, it makes it more complex because now you have to deal with that extra. Remove the extra by removing the feelings that are involved. Is there anybody else, Mickey, by any chance, or can anybody tell me if there's anybody else coming up after me on Twitch with LMC? I might cut it short at 7. I'm not sure if somebody's coming. I have so much that I want to talk about, but I'm going to save some for next week. But we try so hard to get the things that we want from people, and we disregard the things that we need. I'll say that again. But if we mix our wants and needs, we could fix that. But I'll say it again. We try to get the things that we want from people instead of the things that we need. I'll give you an example. on holidays, for my birthday, or for Christmas, or whatever, give me things that I'm going to use. Don't give me things that I'm going to put away and never do, or never use. Like, spend a little bit of time and put a little bit of effort into doing something personable to give somebody something that they actually function with, and they'll appreciate that gift. Even if it was $3, $5, $10, they will appreciate that gift better than any other gift. You know why? Because it's functional. It serves a purpose. It has value. Value is not always a monetary thing. Value is, it could be the function, the functionality of it. Think about these things, man. These things make sense, you know? So, let me see. One thing that I will tell you is, I talked a lot this week about infection. I'm going to talk about that next week. When you're infected by negativity, when you're around a certain situation, even if you're not part of it. Let's say you're in a room, and in the next room there's a TV going on, and there's a training going on, and then there's another TV going on. Believe it or not, all that stuff is going inside your head. So if one thing is doing negativity, the other thing is doing positivity, the other thing is... All I'm saying is that be conscious that when you're in a place and something is playing, like in a dental office, in a doctor office, the elevator music, the music that you hear on the radio, all that stuff are influences. And you can't let that stuff accumulate, because then all that stuff becomes part of your mental toilet. So you have to flush your mental toilet. But you have to understand all the things that go into it that you're not paying attention to. Every commercial, every conversation, when you're on the train, when you're on the bus, when you're in an Uber, the music that they're playing, everything in a restaurant, the music that passes by when a car, all that stuff is influential. You may not think that you need to flush your toilet, so what you do, just in case, is before you have a conversation, before you're going to change from one aspect or one errand or one conversation or something different, flush your toilet. How do you flush your toilet? By reviewing the things that you just went through, taking a breath and saying, you know what, I'll deal with that tomorrow. That way it doesn't come up in the next conversation that you're having. You make a plan. I'll deal with that tomorrow. That's something that's priority. You might have to write it down on your phone. Use your phone to write these things down. You know what I'm saying? If you have memory issues, utilize technology for good, and it won't destroy you, because then you'll be dependent on technology for the wrong reasons, not to advance but to stay down. Please listen to the things I'm telling you. Don't think anybody's going on, so I'll stay a few more minutes. You know what I'm saying? Unless you guys want me to go, let me know if you want me to stay or if you want me to go. All my YouTube guys, let me know if we're still in the house. We could talk about, these things. Look at this thing that I wrote down. I try to write things down as creative and as relevant as possible. But what I stopped doing is writing for likes. I don't want people to like me. I want people to love me. I don't want to be liked. I want to be loved. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's just me. I want to be loved. I want people to show love. Why? Because I'm showing love. I don't want to be liked. I skip that. Never associate with those people that share your defects. In other words, if you have flaws, if you have tendencies, if you're a narcissist, don't hang out with a narcissist, because then you have double narcissism. If you have things that you're having a problem with and you hang out with somebody else that's having a problem with the same thing, then now you have two people with the same problem and no solutions. People that have the same problems, if you go into a room with three people that have the same problem, it's triple the problem. It does not create a solution. Solution comes from diverse thinking, from something different. That's where innovation comes from. When you have diversity, it creates innovation. So you need differences in order to solve problems, because otherwise you're never going to find the answer. Because if you shouldn't have to look for an answer, or that wouldn't have happened in the first place. You understood how it works. Does that make any sense? So you're trying to solve a problem, you have to identify it. And all you're doing is reinforcing your illusions and everything that holds you back. Think about it. If you hang out or you associate with people that have the same defects that you have, it will only create an illusion of acceptance, that it's okay to be like that. And it's not. If you see something different and you are around, if you are like this and you hang out with a group that's like that and you hang out with them enough, you will pick up traits like that. And it could work vice versa too. Your defects or your flaws or your negligences or whatever it is that you want to call it can also affect the group as well, because negative energy is super stronger than positive energy. So one negative person can ruin the flock. One bad apple can ruin the entire, you know what I'm saying? And that's what they try to say, an analogy with the police force. One bad apple doesn't represent the police force. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because if you're standing there watching somebody do something that's wrong, then that is a result of the bad apple, because the bad apple has support. The bad apple has people that turn the other way, or is acceptable behavior in the culture of the police department. Yeah. So think about what I'm saying. Let's see if I can go down a little bit. If I can scroll down, I don't know how to scroll. Oh, I don't want to do top chat, live chat. There you go. So I was trying to figure out how to scroll in the comments, and I'll try to do it. But like I said, it doesn't allow me live chat. If I go up, would I do it? Hey, that's the one thing that I gotta learn how to do, is to be able to see the chat as it's going. Live chat. I wish I knew how to do this. Okay, how about if I write something? Hello, is it possible? No, they won't let me write. People don't like rejection. I had a conversation. Yes, people do not like rejection. I just wish I knew how to roll this. View page source, whatever. That's the case sometimes, The truth always hurts. But the thing is, part of the reason why people don't like to hear the truth is because of the pain. Like, the pain is different. Like, when the truth comes, it's like you're so asphyxiated. You feel like that you can't breathe. Like, a lot goes into it. A lot goes into it. It really does. A lot goes into it, and you got to understand, again, sense of urgency when necessary, the amount of vital force, there's a lot of things to think about, but you got to start somewhere. If you are truly interested in becoming a better person and to adding quality to your life, then these are the things that you need to work on. It's never too late, but the later you wait, the harder it really is, because you're stuck in your ways, and stubbornness is fear of the unknown. And even in a debate, a person that's stubborn will not even listen to reason, I'll say that one more time because this is very powerful. Never associate with people that share the same defects as you. It's like, we're not talking about going to an AA meeting or a drug prevention program or you understand what I'm saying? We're not talking about that. We're talking about in real life, in the common world, if you might be looking for a consensus somehow by hanging out with people that are just like you, because you rather accept what you have than do something about it, and you even look for people that carry the same flaw. It's ridiculous. It's childish, and it's embarrassing to the people that actually have faith and believe in you. It is disrespectful for you to not take life seriously if you have people that love you and believe in you and support you. It really is. Let's please understand that, Let's understand that the best way that I can possibly, do it, It is what it is, man. We talked about that before. We talked about the laws. We talked about a list of things that you want to do at the end of this year. But do it in the now and feel it like you already did it, because you're going to feel great. Create an illusion of what you will feel like if you did something right, instead of an illusion of what will happen if something goes wrong. We're always thinking about what could go wrong, but let's focus on what could go right, and let's try to handle and have the advantage. The reason why we don't do things is because we're heavy on the negative of the cons. So I told you already, negative energy is stronger than positive energy. So if you focus on the negative energy, you're not going nowhere. If you start positive and you keep a consistent positive attitude and mindset, then the negatives you brush them away instead of brushing away the positives. If you start with negatives, then you're brushing off positives. If you start positive, remember that the foundation to everything is the most important thing. The foundation, how it begins, is very important. Now, for most of us, we are always trying to backtrack to go into something, whether it's a relationship or decision that we made in our lives. We try to backtrack. What would I do if I could go back? What would I do differently? We're not trying to fix it. We're not trying to understand it. We're not being 100% honest. We're not going into the core of the problem that is ourselves. So there is nothing, and I'm telling you this from experience, there is nothing more enlightening. There is nothing more of free will when you can do whatever you want, and not that you're putting restrictions on what you do. You got to understand that if you want to do whatever you want in life, understand the repercussions of the decisions that you make. You don't like to deal with the aftermath of what happens from your decisions. So then why don't you make decisions that affect the aftermath? Of course, family traumas and cycles, are you kidding me? Again, foundation. If you come from, you are a product of your environment. And the most important environment is the one where you spend the most time at. Usually you spend the most time at home because you sleep 8 hours a day. You don't go outside so early, to go out. If you're in the streets and hang out with your friends, most of the time you're with your parents. Most of the times you're at home. And regardless if the family is great or not, they still have toxicities. No matter how good the parents are, no matter how good humans are to you, no matter how supportive they are, we all have toxicities because sometimes we get caught up in moments. Sometimes things are frustrating. And like I said before, you have to flush your mental toilet. And not everybody gets a chance to do that. And I talk about this a lot. And sometimes I get caught up with but then I have the ability now to catch myself when I'm overwhelmed. You see, that's an awareness thing. Yes, the cycles of family, they continue because we pick the best things that we can from the things that we learn, the beliefs, and the morals and the responsibilities, the etiquette and everything that comes from that. And throughout the course of time, we realize that, I had options. I don't have to do it that way. Like, why do I have to do things in a traditional way when nothing in that tradition is giving you an elevation? See, this is the problem with customs and traditions, that people follow all these traditions and these customs, and that was made to keep you down. That was made to keep you controlled. Because why is every day is my birthday? Every day is Christmas. Every day is Father's Day. If you're a good father, why the heck would you like to be celebrated once a year? Every day is Father's Day. And I play a mother role too. And every day is Mother's Day too. And I share that. I share. Not as much as I wish I could, but every day is Valentine's Day if you're a good person, if you're a good lover. Every day is Memorial Day if you're a veteran or you serve this country. Are you kidding me? Every day is a wonderful day. Every day is another reason, instead of an excuse, to get it right, to feel an obligation to be happy, instead of being obligated to be stubborn or obligated to do things in a manner that is rebuttal-like. Like everything is a rebuttal, everything is an anti. It's like we shoot the messenger because we don't like them, and that's why we don't never learn the lessons, because if God works the way I believe He works, He sends messages in different ways. And if you have biases and you have hatred and you have all these things that block you from seeing messages, you might be looking at somebody as an enemy, or the message could be coming through them. And you're not getting the message because you're into your own bag. You're into your own self. Trauma is easily dealt with consistent positive behavior. There are different types of PTSD in this world. The post-traumatic stress disorders come from consecutive negative situations. Sometimes it comes from one situation. How do you deal with someone like that? You show them a different environment. You show them a different way. You let them know that they don't have to be subjected or isolated to that type of conscious and subconscious mind. They don't have to revert back to that because not everybody's like that, but you got to show them that. Chances are that if you try to show them and you hurt them in the process, you might devastate them for life because of their level of sensitivity. At that point, they might need to see a professional, someone who has experience with dealing with trauma and will be able to identify patterns and different solutions during their assessment. And I say that from experience because I myself have had counseling in many different areas, you know? Surround yourself with positive people and the positive things will happen. This becomes a snowball in your success. Yes, snowballs happen whether they are positive or negative. And the snowball means that the sense of urgency and the mindset that you have, if you're aggressive about it, things can go bad fast and things can go good fast. But if your mindset is good, good things will happen. If you hang out with people that, if you want to call it infected, if you want to get infected by something, get infected by somebody who's positive. And I don't mean that in a medical way. Somebody that has a positive attitude and is motivated, hang out with people like that. Because you will see that it's the energy that you're not possessing. If you hang out with people that don't do anything, or if you hang out with people that you are the smartest person, then you don't have nothing to gain except the manipulation of the people that you feel you are superior to and they are inferior to you. You understand what I'm saying? In the beginning of the show, I don't know who heard it, but I'm gonna say it again. If you want to be successful in relationships, if you want somebody to do something for you, offer something in return during the conversation. Like, hey, can you do that for me real quick? You know, and in return, okay, is there something that I could do for you? Maybe they can cash it in later if they want to, but keep it reciprocated, because then you don't even realize how many things you've asked someone to do. I'm like, hey, you've asked me already to do 2 or 3 things. Like, what's up? Am I a slave? You're not paying attention. You're not keeping score. When you play golf, you got to keep score so that if you know the person with the lowest score wins the game. Okay, let's see. Mickey on the other side. How about when people think that you're one way and say you're like that, but you don't see it? They want to judge you. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. There's only 3 ways of looking at something when somebody judges you. They're right, they're wrong, or they're partially correct or partially wrong, which means the same thing. The glass is half full, the glass is half empty. It's in the goddamn middle, you know? So you have to pick and choose who you listen to. You know, if you're around people that care about you and are smart, they'll tell you the truth. You know, you shouldn't be around people that are scared to tell you the truth. You want to hear the truth. There's people that also reflect upon themselves and tell you that you're a certain way, but they're talking about themselves. There are people that are angry and project that your direction because they want to share the misery. They don't want to be angry alone. Like, why am I would feel better if I can pass this energy and infect someone. Someone will be happy to release their negativity onto you and infect you with it and release themselves of this. There are people that are elated, happy to infect you with positive energy and motivation, and they'll be happy to help you and share with you. But what happens more than enough is that we look for absolution and we look for acknowledgement from people that haven't given us our due, that they haven't shown us what we've been trying to get from them for the longest. They're never going to give you this. And if they do, they'll do it in a sarcastic way because they're very reluctant to give you what you want, because they'd rather give you what you need. Think about this. There are things that you ask for that are not even good for you. And there's people that don't want to give it to you because they don't want to be a part of the aftermath that comes from it. So, you know, think about it. I would tell you to hurt yourself, but then that would be me being negative, and I can't do that. Don't hurt anybody. Don't hurt yourself. But if you're going to do something and you honestly care about people, think about the things that you do because it affects everybody else. The music that you listen to, the shows that you watch. If you put the music loud, everybody in your house is listening to what you're listening to, subconsciously or not. You know? Maybe your mate doesn't want to hear the same conversation. Maybe your mate is not into business. Maybe your mate is into exercise. Maybe your mate is not. They don't want to hear about any of that. So if they don't want to hear from you, what makes you think that they want to hear you listening to it on the TV? Like, oh, but wait a minute, this is my house. Bro, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what you're playing, how loud the music is. You know, like, if the stuff that you're listening to, you're the only one that likes it, then why does everybody have to keep hearing things and they feel like you're forcing it? So imagine this. You're watching a TV show or you're listening to something, things that they're not into, and then you keep showing things that are not about you and that person. You keep showing things that are to you that they don't flow with. So you're not really doing things for the relationship. You're being you. So if you want to be you, make time for yourself and go take a ride in your car or go take a walk. Put on your Walkman and listen to the podcast or listen to all the other things that are people not into, because what you're doing is turning them off. And one hand washes the other. And if you know how I love reciprocation, is never equal. It is equivalent. You may be strong in certain areas and all they have to do is fill in the blanks. They may be strong in other areas and all you have to do is offer to help them finish a little faster. And if they don't want your help, then that's fine. Then they're independent of you. Find some things that you could be independent also so you could balance it out. It's not equal. Hey, I do this by myself. Yeah, okay, well, they do a lot of things by themselves that you don't even recognize that's going on, you know? You know, look, the first thing you got to do when somebody criticizes you is ask yourself, are they right? Because the first thing we do is get offended. That's a reaction. You know what I'm saying? Offense is a reaction. Defensive is a reaction. People don't think that. Reaction doesn't always have to be something that you go forward. The way you take things is a reaction too, because you're putting yourself in a position to be defensive. You're changing your mindset to protect yourself instead of absorb what they're telling you. You have to be able to be unbiased towards yourself too. Like, the first thing when somebody says something to you, what do you say? Well, what about you? Look who's talking. Does that mean that they don't have a right to tell you something or to put you on? Again, if you're a person of God, God is going to send you messages, not the way you want them to come. But if you are always angry and you're always upset and you're not into positivity, then you're not going to be able to see things or deal with things the way things are supposed to come. If everybody gets you angry, it's not everybody. You're angry. And you want to share this anger. And sometimes it takes a conversation. Sometimes it takes a swim in the swimming pool. Sometimes it takes a mini vacation. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of doing these things. Find a way to escape and understand that peace is not a location. Peace is inside of you. So wherever you go, you take your peace with you. And you don't let nobody touch your peace. You don't let nobody flip your peace. You are in control of your peace because you are in control of who you surround yourself with. Again, if you're in a family where it's difficult, and a lot of us grow up in tough families where we don't agree, and you have the cousin that might live there, the older you are throughout the years, somebody's always living in grandma's house, somebody's, you know what I'm saying, somebody is always wanting to hang out and lay low or cop a squat for a little while and try to get squatters' rights, and after a certain time they try to even use law against you, and they're very ungrateful because you allowed them to get comfortable. When you want to help someone and they come in to live in your house, you don't allow them to get comfortable. You tell them, listen, here are the rules. There are no rules. You just have to do what you got to do. Real simple. Because once you mention rules, then now you're starting to put stipulations. You don't want no one to feel like they're living your life or they're living your laws. You want them to incorporate or indoctrinate into it. You want them to try to pick up some of your positivity, but you don't do it by trying to control them and by judging them. You know, like there is a way to communicate, to empower people, and that's what a real leader does. I went to school to learn how to be a real leader, and you'll be surprised what a real leader is. A real leader is not a commander, it's not a manager, a real leader is a coach. Knows what they're talking about, knows when to admit when they're wrong, takes accountability and responsibility for their actions. That's a leader. A leader empowers people, doesn't utilize people, and learns how to teach different people different things so that nobody feels stronger or superior to anyone else. You create a sense of balance or equivalence. Balance is equivalence. Balance is not equality. Equal is a type of balance, but that is the that is the most uncommon balance there is. Equality. It's the most. It's the most. Not even twins are equal. They don't come out at the same time. That would be really crazy to see two twins come out at the same time. Imagine they come out from different places. That means that one is full of it. But anyway, that's just a little humor. You know what I'm saying? I don't want everything to be super serious, but you have to put a sense of urgency and you have to start focusing on what things are. People don't understand what true power is. Power is not being commandeering. Power is not what you think it is. It's not aggressiveness. Power is the able to get things done in the most smoothest way possible and include people, and everyone feels like there was a part of the development of this. That's what true power is. True power is moving people, not controlling people, not having people do things for your benefit and your benefit only. That's not how it works. So understand these things. Stop making excuses. Push forward. Do whatever it is. Hey, what's up, Adam? I see you, man. Straight facts. You already know. We kick it here. You're a part of what I talk about. You're a person that's so young and so gifted to be as intelligent, as receptive as you are. And I know that a lot of the words that I've shared with you, you put it into practice, and it's helping you. It doesn't help you with all the decisions. We make foolish decisions and we pay for those decisions. And sometimes we don't fix the decision. Sometimes we try to finesse the decision. In other words, you're going to do the same mistake again. And it's going to be the same results because there are some things that weren't made to finesse. There were some things that you need to get rid of. There are some habits. There are some traits. There are some personality things that you have to remove. They just don't work with society. And you can't be the type of person to think that the whole world surrounds themselves around you, or otherwise you will end up extremely alone. And what I mean by extremely alone is you could actually feel alone in front of a group of people. Imagine what it feels like not having anyone to turn to because people have just totally gave up on you and don't want to deal with you anymore. You don't even want to deal with yourself, but you want other people to deal with your BS. Think about that. Not everybody's wrong. Not everybody's right. But you don't get what you're supposed to get out of it if you're always you always got something to say. Yeah, that's the type of person that they are. You just said it. You already have the advantage that when you see this person, that they might be out of pocket. This is what I don't understand. Every time that somebody does something that you call is a act of consistency or a pattern or a habit, you seem surprised. Where did that come from? People are not just out of pocket once in a while, but we act surprised like they are. I'll say it again. A zebra is either a white horse with black stripes or a black horse with white stripes. No, a zebra is a zebra that has black and white stripes. I don't even think zebras and horses are extremely related. They did some cousin thing. That's my cousin. Everybody in the Latino family or in the black families, that's my cousin. That's my cousin. That's family. You understand? No, it's not. But now we know that family is an action word, and it's not just the people that you are born into or the people that family are the people that you have a relationship with that you have to respond to. Family are people that do things for you. Family is earned. If people don't act like they're your family, then you have to hold them accountable. But you got to understand that they might be reacting to something that you don't even know that you did. So be aware of the things that you say. Be aware of what you're doing because it could be overwhelming. Think about that. Too much of anything is too much. You are the one that controls the amount of level. It's like when you have a birthday cake, right? And you're going to squeeze somebody's name. Happy birthday to... You have to squeeze it consistently, but the speed of the writing has to be the same because if you squeeze too hard and you're going too slow, you're going to have a fat H. A big fat A. Happy birthday. It's a certain consistency. And another movement, which is moving while squeezing. Moving while squeezing at the same time. Think about that. When you speak to someone, think about how you feel when you're talking about this, because if you're uncomfortable talking about this, there's always going to be tension. The person that you're speaking to, you think that they're there looking for something to jump on. The only time that people look for something to jump on is when you're talking about them. You don't want nobody talking about you. then talk about yourself. The people that you don't want talking about you, or for some reason or another, usually it's because they're saying the truth. So do what Eminem did. In the heightened battle of the 8 Mile, the way Eminem won this battle is by taking the power away from the other person. In a rap battle, you talk down about a person's lifestyle, their social class, their economic inabilities, their education level, and they talk about all those things. But Eminem took it upon himself to talk about himself first and say, listen, I know I'm this, I know I'm that, I know I'm this, but I'm working on that. You will stun people. You will knock them off their feet. And you know what they'll do? They'll fall back. Or they might become talkative. They might make it worse and say, yeah, man, this is what I've been trying to tell you, man. It's about time. You got to eat those things. You got to eat those things. Because you got to make it seem, this might be to an advantage of a person. You may think that you're giving someone advantage, but what you're doing is shifting the leverage. Because if you don't listen to people, then you're not going to get another perspective, and you can't do this alone. Talk to the more smarter people. Have a conversation with people that can catch you when you're doing something that holds you back. Like, they'll tell you, look, that right there, what you just did, you got to change your mentality. You got to start pushing positive thoughts. You got to manifest these things, and by thinking about them, but thinking about them is not enough. In certain cases, you have to write things down, or you have to say them. Talk about yourself. Be down to earth. Be real. That's the hardest thing to do. It's reach the highest level of what Abraham Maslow called the hierarchy of needs. Let's go into that. Real quick. Because I talk about that a lot. Hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow.
According to ThoughtCo, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory by Abraham Maslow, which puts forward that people are motivated by 5 basic categories of needs: physiological, safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization.
Think about what's happening here. There's 5 levels of the hierarchy of needs. This is why Abraham Maslow, he was a sociologist and a lot of other things too. So the physiological needs, which include air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and then safety, security, creating a safe haven. It's what I believe a lot of women talk about, that they want to feel safe. They want to have a safety net. They want to be secure. And that's why sometimes they get anxious, because they don't know how to feel about insecurities. Like if they see their man suffering and they go, oh my God, we're about to lose it, they lose it too. And sometimes the woman is the stronger one. Then you got love and belonging, being a part of something. That's why so many kids join gangs, and so many kids leave the house, because people trick them into feeling that they're a part of something. And they're, like I said, their frontal cortex is not developed yet, so their sense of belonging could be different. Now, esteem, respect, self-esteem, your status, recognition, and your strength. That's when you're recognized for the things that you do when you accomplish. It feels great. There's nothing worse than accomplishing something and somebody comes and says, so what? Or, and who do you think you are? You want a medal? Those are the type of people that you smile to. And you say, I expected that. An asshole is an asshole. I expected that. You don't get upset and let that comment take away your power. You don't let someone who can't be anybody else change and ruin and take away the accomplishment that you spent so much time and energy into doing. Are you serious? You're weak. If you're the type of person that words can take away days, hours, weeks, if a couple of seconds can remove the amount of energy, the strength, the dedication, whatever it is that you did, then you're weak. Then why did you accomplish that if you're not going to defend it? And the only way to defend it is not always by talking or reacting. Sometimes the best defense is not making a decision. And that's how we started the show. By saying that there are times that we're forced, we think that we have to make a decision. Sometimes we don't. You don't have to make a decision to be like, you know what? F you. You know what? The hell with you. No, you know what? I expect that. Because as I'm elevating, I'm going to run into a lot of people like you So you're just on level 1 right now. I know there'll be even better and stronger people at what you do, and I'm going to be ready for these people. And thanks to you, I'm ready for people like you. That's how you win. You take the power away from them by not allowing them to distract you or derail you. Or how can they take something away that they can't take away? They can't take away your accomplishment. You allowed them to take away this accomplishment. You allowed them to win. Ain't nobody gonna tell me, hey, you got all this education, and so what? Well, so what is that you can benefit from this too. It is your choice whether to not benefit from this or not. But I know that I'm putting my education into effect. And my education is not just the papers that you see, it's the experiences. It is the self-taught things. It is me looking up words. It's me sharing how easy it is to look up things on Google. Like every time that you see a word that you don't recognize, look it up. Stop assuming that you understand this word, because you might understand that this word could be used in different contexts. So you'll always be in disagreement with yourself. Sometimes words have different meanings, and they're used in different contexts. You want to be able to learn the different contexts, because you get stubborn and stuck on one meaning, and then it's used in another one. You go, that's not what it means. And then you look like the idiot because you did not fill the entire glass. That was one of those things that you needed to fill the entire knowledge. Learn the whole thing. Learn whatever you can about it, so that your entire perspective is fulfilled and you don't never get tricked into something like that ever again. So that being said, that was about an hour and a half, and that's as intense as it can get. You know, all these things come to me, and I write these things down because there's a lot of things and I don't want to miss any points, but I do this as natural as possible. This is not something that was planned last week. These are thoughts throughout the weeks. I'll take an index card. You know, buy yourself a pack of index cards. Buy yourself 2 different sizes. That way you can feel like one is more important than the other. Learn how to trick yourself into playing the games that you play with everybody else. Your expectations, why don't you have the same expectations of yourself? You talk a good game about expectations of what you want other people to be, and you don't like it when these people demonstrate something different because you act the same way. You become biased. So if you're the same way, then why do you have a problem when people treat you the same way? You're like, oh, it's okay for you to do it and it's not okay for them. So that means you're living in a double standard. You're living in a way where you're not even living the life that you want other people to live. That is dishonesty. That is a total dishonesty. And it's a true misconception of yourself. So the next time somebody says something about you, and you know what you say, and what else? And what else have you noticed? Is there anything else that you think I can improve in? And let the person tell you exactly what they feel, man. You saying like for real. Nobody likes to listen to people when it's about you. But we have a lot to say about a lot of other people. You understand? So understand that, man. If you can't take the heat, get the heck out the kitchen, man. Don't distribute what you can't receive. Because believe it or not, when people talk to you, those are gifts. Because it might not be you have an opportunity to know if this person speaks factual. You get a chance to see if this person is full of it. You get you get actually to learn something, like, where is this coming from? Maybe they heard that from somewhere else and they're judging you. Don't you want to know if people are keeping it real with you or not? Do you want to live a life of fallacy, a life of phoniness? No. All my relationships are investments, and I want to be a part of it. So if there is something that somebody has to say to me, go right ahead. I want it. I want it. But be very careful what you throw out there, because when you point one finger, there's 5 fingers pointing at you. Trust me when I tell you, man. The moment that you start opening the floodgates, and also the moment that you reach something, a goal, don't go out there and share with everybody, because you're going to get a lot of mixed emotions. You think everybody's going to throw a party for you? No. People are going to be jealous of you. Some people are going to be happy for you. Some people don't care. Honestly, let people be people. You didn't react the way I expected you to. There you go. You're putting expectations. You know what I'm saying? Let it go. How do you know that person's not happy for you? Because they didn't show it. Happy is not always something that can be displayed. People show happiness in many different ways. They do it through reward. They do it through favors. They might do something special. They might cook you a meal. I don't know, man. But give a person a chance to be natural without you having to control how they react to your flaws and your accomplishments. It goes the same way. You don't want nobody to tell you your flaws, but you want everybody to applaud you when you do something right. Come on, man. It goes both ways. From LMC Radio, where loyalty means everything. Hormiga Enterprises. I am your host, Hormiga. I am always happy to be here. I am forever motivated. I will use everything to my advantage and leverage to push for positivity. I love you all so much. I love the support that you're giving. We're growing and things are really going to get better. I guarantee you that I'm trying to take this as far as it can go. But remember, I'm not doing this for the numbers. I'm doing this to try to help people love themselves so that they can have great relationships. We need better relationships. We need more closeness. We don't need any more separation. That's why there's 1,000 religions. That's why they prey on everything. Sexuality, choice this, choice that. They separate us so many ways so that we could be down here arguing instead of having elevated discussions about things that really matter. I am your host, Hormiga. 2022. Write some things down. I love you all. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. All right? Take it easy, everybody.